Good evening to all of you. I can understand the students sitting here and those who are admitted here in ILI, but others after hard day's work, waiting for me to say something about Dworkin and about dignity. So let me first thank all of them, having shown your patience, and I don't know whether I'll be able to tell you what good life is, but I hope for me the good life would be if after my lecture you say that yes, it was a good lecture and you didn't get bored. So I expect that at least, but for that I have to earn, I have to show my performance, and onus is on me. My revered teachers, Professor M.P. Singh and Professor Rajiv Khanna, both were my teachers in Delhi University Law Faculty. Professor Dr. Salman Khurshid, Dr. Lokendra Malik, Professor Dogra, many senior advocates sitting here. I can say many teachers who were my colleagues. As you were told, I taught as a part-time teacher for a few years. And dear students, in the beginning, I must say that I am thankful to Professor Malik rather to give me this opportunity. And frankly, for introducing me to Dworkin. I had read something about Dworkin as a student and as a practitioner also, because I kept interest in studying jurisprudence. But like other jurists, I had read something about Dworkin as well. And of course, those debates between Hart and Dworkin, but was not very intimately connected with the personality of Dworkin. Never had any chance, was not lucky like Mr. Salman Khurshid, who was his student and had interacted with him. But even otherwise, I am frankly saying that I had not read in depth except reading occasionally from his book Taking Rights Seriously, which was presented to me or given to me by my father when I was a student of law. And that is why I said when Professor Malik came to me and said that about Dworkin, and it was more than a year ago, I think. They wanted to come out with the book and wanted to start this lecture series, that I started studying about Dworkin. I had other books as well in the meantime I had purchased, which were lying there on the shelf, like this about Justice for Hedgehogs as well. And but then I started reading, and in the meantime I was presented one book which is Religion Without God, which is again a wonderful book. And from all this, after reading, I really became an admirer of Dworkin and the way he explained his jurisprudence and his lively debates with Hart. We are not jurists. We don't have that kind of caliber which Professor M.P. Singh or Professor Bakshi may be having, and they can be that critical of whether it is Hart who is right or it is Dworkin who is right. But maybe to some extent, both have the message which they want to give, and the theories or jurisprudential theories which they had propounded had their significance. So therefore, we are not here to critique one or the other. As far as the topic is concerned, it is about Dworkin's concept of dignity and how it is imbibed in India and how it can be traced into Indian ethos and philosophy or Indian constitution or the the case law of the various judgments which the Supreme Court has given in expanding and many principles, or particularly the human rights or the fundamental rights. See, I must start by saying that this 7 letters constituting one word have the ability of inducing life, the capacity of transforming humanity, an expression signifying equality, liberty, and everything that our preamble to the Constitution stands for. And the word is dignity. We add to that preface human dignity. And this is where how it is expanded by Dworkin that I cherish. I could begin today's speech quoting a passage on human dignity, on how a life without dignity is not life at all. But I am not doing that. I could also begin the speech talking about Dworkin and his philosophies dealing with the importance of rights and the interpretation of law being likened to art. But I am not doing that as well. I could talk about his accomplishments and impact he has had, how his contribution to legal theory, to political philosophy, and epistemology have been profound, and how he was ever willing to explore new directions, never running away from controversy, and engaging at both theoretical and practical levels as a philosopher and as a teacher. But then again, I won't do that either. However, I could begin with one simple sentence, a sentence that has been embodied in constitutions around the world, a sentence that gives meaning to our fundamental rights, a purpose to our fundamental duties, one that has shaped human rights and has brought to life, in fact, the true meaning of life, and the sentence which was succinctly and profoundly put by Ronnie, as Khurshid said, and that sentence is, in his words, Ronald Dworkin's words, we have responsibility to live well. That is the sentence, and which captures the entire philosophy of human dignity, and that is my endeavor to expand it here. So what he says, I repeat, we have a responsibility to live well. There's a stress on the word responsibility and living well. He says that not only it is our right, rather it is our responsibility to live well. And generally we know our responsibilities. We have responsibility towards our parents. We have responsibilities towards our children, towards nation, towards fellow citizens, towards society. But what he is talking is that most importantly, we have responsibility towards ourselves as well. And a responsibility to live well, to perform in life stage an act of value. In his words, what he says, each person must take his own life seriously. That is what he has said in Justice for Hedgehogs in that book. A life is lived well when it's the endeavor of the actor to give a successful performance. As he said that when Justice Learned Hand asked him that how the life is to be lived well, he gave the example of how he would like to see himself in the heaven. So naturally, an actor, if he performs well, his performance is well in a movie, in a play, etc., he would say that it was not a wasted opportunity, I have lived my life well. And secondly, each person must remember that he has a special personal responsibility for identifying what counts as success in his own life. So he has a personal responsibility to perform his part of life's stage by employing means that he himself endorses. So these are the two ideas from two principles of self-respect. It comes out of that, the principle of self-respect. When I want to live my life well, so it is respect to myself. So this idea of self-respect and authenticity, the second idea of authenticity given to that self-respect, I think this is what Dworkin calls is the conception of dignity. So these are to be kept in mind when we start, and he starts with the word, we have responsibility to live well. And how it is translated, this responsibility as a right to live well, I'll come to that. But at this stage, what I want to say is that let us understand, he has said in this form what is dignity, but how dignity is understood. I'm maybe digressing a little in the sense when it comes to Dworkin and Dworkin's concept of dignity, I have told you in brief. But how dignity is otherwise understood historically, politically, socially. What is human dignity? If I say that there are over a period of time 3 models of human dignity. One is theological model, that is, which is in our religions, of different religions, perceived from time to time. Second is the philosophical model of dignity. And the third is constitutional value or constitutional model of dignity. Now, whenever you read any books on human dignity or even on fundamental rights or universal rights, to which I'll refer to shortly, it is always treated as a concept given by West to the rest of the countries, to the rest of the world. But when we talk of dignity, it is not necessarily so. In fact, Professor Bakshi, in one of his memorial lectures, Justice H.R. Khanna Memorial Lecture, he has highlighted this point. And his topic of that lecture itself was protection of dignity of individual under the Constitution of India. And there he aptly remarked that dignity notions, like the idea of human rights, are supposed to be the gifts of West to the rest, though this view is based on the prescribed ignorance of the rich traditions of non-European countries. Then he has explained how it is so, but when we talk of theological model, the first model of human dignity, and discuss in that context, the things would be clear. You see, our in the our Earth Shastra, Vedas, it is written, Amritasya Putra Vayam, which means we are all begotten of the immortal. Then Vivekananda has said, every individual soul is potential divine. This is what I'm trying to say is the recognition which is given to human beings, even in our culture, even in our society. In Ringved, there's one shloka, Ajyasthaso akanisthasa yate sam bharataro vavrud subhagya, which means no one is superior or inferior, all are brothers, all should strive for the interest of all and progress collectively. This is nothing but human dignity. Even if you see Islam, and the tradition of human rights would become evident. In Islam, the Islam believes that man has special status before God. Because man is the creation of God, he should not be harmed. Harm to human being is harm to God. God, as an act of love, created man, and he wishes to grant him recognition, dignity, and authority. So this is the main message of Islam. This is nothing but giving respect to human beings and accepting human dignity. And that is what the ethos is. Even if we see Bhakti and Sufi traditions, they talk of universal brotherhood. So human dignity, as far as theological model is concerned, had always been there. And when we come to the philosophical model, there I would not say in detail, because I just wanted that since we are concentrating on Ronald Dworkin and his concept of dignity, but I thought that let me explain generally how the dignity is understood, and that is why I have digressed a little. And philosophical model, if you see the theory of Kant, Hobbes, Locke, and others, and what it explains in a nutshell, if I say that as far as European or Eurocentric view is concerned, it views dignity in terms of personhood, that is moral agency, and autonomy, that is freedom of choice. And in this respect, dignity is treated as empowerment. So the two catchwords which are important, and which Ronnie also emphasizes, is that personhood, that is moral agency, and freedom of choice. When he says that we have responsibility to live well, our life well, that is the freedom of choice, to which I'll come and I'll expand. And it is that freedom of choice and living well and coupled with moral agency that gives us empowerment. And that is what the human dignity is. So this is what the philosophical model is. Constitutional model or constitutional value of dignity, I am skipping that for time being. I'll come to that after explaining what human dignity, how it is expanded by Dworkin, and when its relationship with Indian constitution and Indian legal system we refer to. And here, as I said, that when it leads to empowerment, and when we talk of human dignity, and the way he has explained, Dworkin has explained in one sentence which I narrated, that it is my life and I have responsibility to live the life well. Corresponding duty in this is that I should recognize this right of others also to live well. If I have responsibility to live well, other person also has responsibility to live well, and I have to recognize that. So the moment I have my right to live well, and I recognize the right of other to live well and to live with dignity, the concept of dignity is not only a concept, it remains a concept of responsibility, it becomes a right. And from here, and that becomes, as I'll explain later, a fulcrum of all human rights, and including fundamental rights which are given to us in our constitution. And how this is, again, talking of then how dignity becomes human rights. Let us talk of fundamental rights or human rights first. We know, as I told you, philosophical basis, not only of dignity, of rights as well, which has been there since long. If you see 1976 US Declaration of Independence, it contains Declaration of Human Rights. Likewise, French declaration after that French Revolution in 1789, that also contains. Similarly, our constitution contains in 1950. But just before that, these were two, if we talk of French rights or US constitution or our Indian constitution, these are the rights given to the citizens of the respective countries. What is most important is 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights, because that recognizes human rights universally. And these are not country specific or relative rights. The important thing is that, and everybody knows why this Universal Declaration of Human Rights immediately after the Second World War, which had seen such a destruction and in the process the way human rights were crushed and the lives were lost, it was recognized and it was thought proper that there has to be a universal declaration. We have to accept certain basic rights of all human beings which are universal in nature. And that was the purpose behind Universal Declaration. But important thing is that even after stating so, no reasons, this document of Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948 does not give any reasons behind it, does not give any rationale behind it. Everybody knows that. And from there, from time to time, those who are the students of human rights or fundamental rights and historical and politically how they evolved in different countries and they assumed universality, and even thereafter there had been debates. The question was, what is the justification for this? And thereafter, the theories, apart from philosophical theories which were there of Kant, Hobbes and Marx also, which I said earlier, but then there was some justification, some rationale given. One is legal positivism, that these rights are there because they are enshrined in the Constitution. But there's one fundamental, there may be error or weakness in this, which is this. If our Constitution does not recognize that, or there's no chapter, or US Constitution does not say and there's no chapter, will those rights be not there? If they are human rights, they are natural rights, whether these rights are there only because of legal positivism. So if we accept that, and if there is no rights guaranteed in a particular constitution, a particular country, or a country which does not have written constitution like UK or Israel, that does not mean they don't have human rights. So therefore, here I say that the main reason behind these human rights is not legal positivism, but it is the moral basis of these human rights. And it is the philosophical basis of these human rights. And here, the justification behind all these human rights is the human dignity, the way it is explained. And that is a reason we know in emergency what happened when these human rights were suspended, ADM Jabalpur, and I'm not entering into that debate today, but that is one lesson, and the court and the Supreme Court interpreting that some rights which are there, or coming out with the concept of basic features of the Constitution, that these are the rights which cannot be even taken away by the Parliament by making any amendment. Amendment is also not allowed. So the concept of legal positivism goes, and the rationale of human dignity comes into being. And this is where human dignity has the basis behind all these human rights. It is the ethics and individual morality behind these human rights which is the fulcrum.
Not a problem, my lord.
Now, the Dworkin here perceived an interpretative process, which is very, very important, which is to be adopted by the judge, by a judge, in implementing these rights. or human dignity. Is written very beautifully on the interpretative process as well. And what he has said is that, if I may say so in brief, that we as judges have the duty of interpreting the law, employing the various tools of interpretation and tailoring a meaning that fits the case at hand aptly. As was told to you by Dr. Salman Khurshid, that debate between Hart and Dworkin from time to time, and discussing in the classrooms there also how judges decide cases. This has been the topic. Actually, there are many. Justice Harun Barak, who is the ex-Chief Justice, former Chief Justice of Israel, has written a book, How Judges Decide. How Judges Decide is a book written by Justice Posner, Judge of Court of Appeal in US. And Justice Barak has written a book, The Role of Judge in a Democracy. And if you read these books, they are, because both of them are judges, they are insights into how judges decide. And we know, and all of you know, that it is the interpretative method of interpretation of a particular law, where on the basis of which and how it is to be interpreted. And Dworkin says that even while adopting this tool of interpretation, the judge is guided by moral principles. That is how he developed the theory of morality. And there, what is the justice which lies at the end, and what is the outcome of a case which should be given, and how it is to be applied in hard cases, which was said. And when I give the examples of that, I'll narrate that. But before that, as I said, the Dworkin perceived interpretative process adopted by a judge. Some reflection thereof I've given above. And if I recapitulate briefly, he was aware of the idea of a constitution and a constitutional right to human dignity. In his book, Taking Rights Seriously, he noted that everyone who takes rights seriously must give an answer to the question why human rights vis-a-vis state exist. According to him, in order to give such an answer, one must accept as a minimum the idea of human dignity. And that is what he writes, and I quote, "Human dignity associated with Kant, but defended by philosophers of different schools, supposes that there are ways of treating a man that are inconsistent with recognizing him as a full member of human community, and holds that such treatment is profoundly unjust." Talking particularly about certain hard cases involving moral overtones, he specifically discussed the issues, certain issues pertaining to abortion, euthanasia, etc. And he says, dignity, which means respecting the inherent value of our own lives, is the heart of both the arguments on both sides. Because when we come to these hard cases, you will find that there is an arguable point on both sides and how it is to be done. So, and in his book, there is another book, Is Democracy Possible Here? That is the book which he had written in the year 2006. He develops two principles about concept of human dignity. First principle regards the intrinsic value of every person. Namely, every person has a special objective value, which value is not only important to that person alone, but success or failure of lives of every person is important to all of us. The second principle, according to Dworkin, is that of personal responsibility, which I narrated in the beginning. Now, if this is the concept of human dignity given by Dworkin, how it translates into Indian jurisprudence or Indian constitution. As I said earlier, my responsibility to live my life well and equally accept the right of other to live well, which is dignity. What it means, first thing it shows, and the two things immediately which come out of it: right of equality. I have to treat other person as equal as I want myself to be treated. And other is when we talk of living well, it is right of living life with dignity, or right to life, which is under Article 21. Now, Article 21 talks of right to life. There's no word dignity there. But Supreme Court has, if you remember, many cases, and almost in all the cases on Article 21, important cases, has said right to life doesn't mean a mere animal existence. Right to life means right to life, right to live life with dignity. And dignity is emphasized here. Immediately, the concept of Dworkin gets translated into what in Indian judges have, through the interpretative process, as was explained by Dworkin and which is there, is mentioned. Now, if you see under Article 14 and Article 21, when we talk of any right and any judgment, if you see where it is expended, as I said, the central theme is dignity, and that is the fulcrum of human rights. Think of prisoners' rights, even as under trial, even after conviction, even after death sentence imposed upon them, and before they are hanged, there are certain rights which flow because of dignity. I'm not, all the three statements which I have made, there are various cases supporting these statements. I'm not touching upon this because of paucity of time, but I'll come to hard cases immediately. Second is, you see, rights of disabled. When we talk of those rights, it is the right given to them because of dignity. And there are many cases decided by, including one judgment which I had authored in Jija Ghosh, of a lady who was deplaned. She had boarded a plane, was holding a valid ticket, and she was forced to leave that plane, and she was taken out because what was thought that maybe she is not well, and it's a 3 hours flight. I think it was from Kolkata to Goa, where she was going as a disabled rights activist in a conference, and a case was filed. So I'm again not narrating that how in that judgment, the entire judgment where it was said that it amounted to violation of her human rights, or Article 21, how it is based on the dignity of that woman. So rights of disabled persons, rights of reputation of individual. There are many judgments on that. Kiran Bedi's judgment, Marian versus this recent judgment of the Supreme Court given by Justice Deepak Mishra in Devdas Ramachandran versus State of Maharashtra, and many others on right to reputation. So these are all based on human dignity. But let us talk of hard cases, because in these cases one can easily propound the theory of human dignity and say that Article 21 or Article 14 has to be given a proper meaning, and a meaning which ensures proper right to these persons who can enjoy those rights. First case would be, I won't say in detail, but which will fall in that category, is what was discussed, that transgenders case. One thing along with transgender, which I may be, because of certain reasons, obvious reasons, that case is still pending. Of course, now refer to Constitution Bench, Article 377, Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code, Nas Foundation case. But what is held in transgender has some ramification, I can say this much, on that particular case. Now, if you talk of, now these are the aspects on which the questions of morality come. Second types of cases are the cases of reproductive rights of women, cases of adoption. Now, here, reproductive rights, whether cases where a lady who is pregnant and it is unwanted pregnancy, suppose it's a case of, and we have seen those cases in recent past, and Supreme Court has given the orders, the fetus, and if the child is born, we know that he or she may be suffering from various diseases, and it is not in his interest. Or it was that a woman was raped and she became pregnant and she doesn't want. Or she doesn't want otherwise. Reproductive rights in this society take it from another angle, where she wants a child, but as we know in our society, that if husband doesn't want or family doesn't want because it happens to be a female fetus. The question is whether, and we know in our society, societal norms are that generally what the husband says or what the family says is to be accepted. But why? On the one hand, there may be some kind of those kind of morals or so-called morals which have no value. But what is important in the whole process is, when I want a child, a woman says, it is my choice. Whether I want adoption or not, it is my choice. Because when the reproductive rights are those rights where woman's body is involved. And it is the woman who has right over her body. And this is the dignity which we have to accept. This is I think that no debate is required. Of course, on such, take the case of another line of cases, euthanasia. When a person's right to live includes right to die also or not. Of course, in one form that judgment is given by Justice Karju, that when this right can be exercised, again, it is a concept of dignity which comes in. Of course, these are hard cases. And hard cases, it is in this sense, Ronnie or Dworkin mentioned these cases as hard cases. Hard cases are not those hard cases which make bad laws in that sense. The sense where the choice before a judge becomes little difficult and not a clear-cut case. I am telling you from my experience as a judge, now I am judge for 18 years, maybe 90 to, and that is what I have read, which is written by many other judges, including Barak and Posner in their books, which I have read. Maybe 95% cases are easy cases. In the sense, when they come before us, we know what is going to be the result and how it is to be decided. We are very clear in mind. But that 2 or 3% cases are those cases where a judge, it becomes difficult for a judge to choose this side or that side because both appear to be equally strong. That is what is described by Ronald Dworkin as hard cases, in that sense. So what is the choice? What is to be the decision taken? Dworkin says, go by the principles of morality. And there he expanded the concept of morality and brought human dignity in between. If these are the cases which involves human rights and where human dignity lies, according to me, that should be a way out, and that should be the deciding factor for a particular judge to decide a particular case. And this is how one should resolve hard cases. And there's another important aspect when we talk of human dignity and we talk of the rights which are to be given, fundamental rights, that I would call element of public interest. Why everybody has right to live his own life or her own life according to her choice. In transgender case, where a person wants to be, here again I am not expanding, there may be various reasons, it may be biological, it may be a personal choice. Because I remember having read as a student of law that British Parliament, because there is no judicial review of, there was, I would say, of legislative action. And we were told British Parliament can do anything. And the famous saying was, British Parliament can do anything except making man a woman and woman a man. But even that is possible today. In today's, because of, thanks to the development in science, even that is possible. And if a man wants to become woman and woman wants to become man, that was also one of the issues in transgender case. We said that it's a question of choice. If he or she wants to live the life in this manner, it's a matter of his or her human dignity. And that is why it has to be given. And this is in public interest. Why I say it is in public interest? If persons are able to live well, if we give them full freedom to nurture their talent in whatever field they are, you have, I think most of you or everybody must have seen the movie Three Idiots. What was the message? That parents should not impose their will on their children. Whatever they like, we should allow them to do that. Because only then they achieve, not only achieve, and it would be a sense of self-fulfillment, but they would become an asset to the society. If a person achieves some such thing and is able to become something in life, good lawyer, good judge, good scientist, good professor, good doctor, it's a public interest which is involved. So therefore, this human dignity has public element as well. And that is how the concept of dignity, which is enshrined and which is developed by Dworkin, and I would say in Indian Constitution, and the way it is interpreted, it goes really, it syncs with each other very well. And in this process, how I end and what is my conclusion? There's one aspect I wanted to say that for because of paucity of time, I'm not developing on that. It could have been a little digression also on the book of Dworkin on religion without God, because that is one aspect which we are feeling nowadays much importance thereof in today's political and social scenario or in this context. But that may be some other time and a complete full lecture on that, which and in Indian context, but because expanding on that may take much time. But then I conclude by saying that adopting Dworkin's position of religion without God, I've said so because I wanted to add that, might serve us well in today's day, but I won't say that. I could again conclude by saying that it is only by respecting oneself that we can be equipped to respect others, essentially in ensuring that we treat everyone with equality, but I won't do that either. I will, however, conclude by saying that Dworkin drew a new picture of dignity, a picture that we see is often used as inspiration in our judgments. But what Dworkin truly made us appreciate is the power of the tool of interpretation and how everything is open to interpretation and evolves with interpretation, as this speech, as the views of everyone else, as the book. Thank you very much.